This is part 4 of the demo for building a UML class model. I'm Michael Blaha. We will start with the tentative classes and associations from parts 2 and 3. You can see them on the screen. And now we're going to find tentative generalizations. And we'll start once again with the problem statement. I'm not going to read through it all again. There's one part of the problem statement which is especially relevant. Library patrons may borrow books, magazines, compact discs, and audio tapes. You recall before, I mentioned when we put the relationship between library patron and book, we said, hey, it could just as well go to all three of these. I didn't want to draw it in at the time. And really a pending request is not just for a book. A pending request is for all three of these. So book, magazine, compact disc, and audio tape really are different variations of the same kind of thing. And the same kind of thing is a library item, because even if you look at the problem statement, it has these four things, and right away it says a library must manage each copy of a library item. Well, a book is a library item, a magazine is a library item, compact disc is a library item, an audio tape is a library item. These are all things that a patron can borrow, and these are all things that can have pending request. So let's add that to the model now. So all four of these are library items. So this is the UML notation for generalization. Library item is a superclass. Book is a subclass. A library item can be any of these four things. So a library item, as shown here, must be a magazine, compact disc, audio tape, or book. A book is a library item, audio tape is a library item, compact disc is a library item, magazine is a library item. We're going to add one more class here. We'll call it other library item, because I'm not sure that these four possibilities have covered everything that's possible in a library. And that's actually an important thing to keep in mind with the model, is trying to allow for unusual situations. So we're going to do that here. So this is also a library item. Now I'll make a slight cleanup to the style of the model. I prefer to use a vertical style for the tree because it shows a fan out more clearly. It's purely a matter of style. It's not a matter of what's required or not, but I pay a lot of attention to style because I think it improves the clarity of the model, and the purpose of a model like this is to communicate. So you can see, Enterprise Architect has some nice little features to clean up a model. So all these are library items. So a patron doesn't just borrow a book. A patron borrows a library item. A patron can borrow a magazine, a compact disc, audio tape, book, or something else. So all these apply. So that's another thing you'll notice with a good case tool such as Enterprise Architect. Manipulate diagrams like this is less of a headache than if you just use like a general graphics editor. Similarly, a pending request is not only for a book, it's for any of these five. So let's take advantage of that. Okay, so the model's starting to take some shape. So all five of these things are library items. All five of these can have a library item type. Any of these can vary, for example, in the checkout period and number of renewals. All of these can be borrowed by a patron. All of these can have copies, like there's 5 copies of the book, The Grapes of Wrath. There can be multiple copies of an issue of a magazine. So this is an improved model. So let me add a minor enhancement to this model that's going to bring up another important point. I'm going to say we're going to add that a library item has authors. So I'm adding right now. So a library item has many authors, and an author, of course, can author many library items. So that's certainly certainly not an unreasonable thing to add to the model. It's correct. Is it helpful or not? Well, that's a matter of scope And the exact scope of this model isn't that clear. So this, if we have a card catalog, it's certainly within scope for that. Now the reason I'm adding it is as follows. Author is a person, library patron is a person. If I choose to, I could generalize both of these into a superclass. Maybe I call the superclass person. But I will not add that to the model because such a generalization adds nothing. There's really no, within the scope of this information system, within the scope of this software, there's no meaningful commonality of an author and a library patron. They both happen to be persons, but so what? An author is just listed like in the card catalog in terms of various library items that they've created, so you can search by author. Library patron is somebody who has pending requests, somebody who does checkouts. Their purposes within the system are totally different, so that's not a useful generalization. So you get generalizations by studying a problem statement. You get generalizations by listening to use cases, interacting with business experts. You get generalizations by knowledge of the problem domain. And when you consider generalizations, you have to consider what's useful and not. This is just not an academic exercise. So this is the end of chapter 4 of part 4.